Tonight, Australia's worst flood. 9 dead. Southeast Queensland is swamped.
We do need to brace ourselves for the likelihood of further bad news.
Towns in the Lockyer Valley ripped apart by a wall of water.
Stood on the roof of that building behind me and watched the cars float down the road, watched the houses float down the road.
Flood devastated towns on the Darling Downs bracing for the second inundation in a week.
They have not been able to prepare. It's come so fast.
And it's all heading for the capital, Brisbane, preparing for a repeat of 1974.
Today is very significant. Tomorrow is bad, and Thursday is going to be devastating for the residents and the businesses concerned.
Good evening, Joe O'Brien with a special national bulletin of ABC News from Brisbane on ABC One and across Australia on ABC News 24. Australia's worst flooding disaster. That's how the situation in Queensland is being described. 3/4 of the state is now a disaster zone. And after 19 days, the human toll has risen dramatically. 9 people were killed overnight. Nearly 60 are missing in the worst hit area of the Lockyer Valley to the west of Brisbane. The southeast Queensland farming district was hit by a wall of water as the Lockyer Creek rose in a matter of minutes, roaring through the town of Grantham. Homes were ripped from their stumps, cars swept from streets. More people were killed in floodwaters at Murphy's Creek, just to the north. Black Hawk helicopters this afternoon evacuated 300 people living at Forest Hill near Laidley. 2 lives were lost in the inland city of Toowoomba, which yesterday experienced what's being described as an inland tsunami. Police are not expecting that number to climb, but the crisis is far from over. Brisbane is being warned that a flood peak worse than the record 1974 event is likely to hit the capital in the next 48 hours. Already the suburbs of Fortitude Valley, Albion, West End and Milton are going under. People in other low-lying areas have been told to leave before they're forced out. Premier Anna Bligh was shaken last night as she revealed the extent of the crisis. Today, she described it as a true test of Queenslanders. She's called in help from interstate, but appealed for residents to hang in there.
I understand that you may be very frightened by what is happening around you. What we need now is calm.
At least 30 suburbs in Brisbane are under threat, with residents affected in 1974 being told to expect the same. Ipswich is also about to be hit hard. Mayor Paul Pizzali says 16 suburbs will be flooded, with thousands of residents affected. The Bremer River is expected to reach 22 metres tomorrow and may go higher. That's a greater flood than 1974. Well, like Darwin after Cyclone Tracy, that's how the damage to the Lockyer Valley town of Grantham is being described. Their houses were torn from their foundations and literally carried away by the raging torrent. The ABC's Paul Lockyer is the only reporter who's been able to get into the town, and he filed this report.
The images are stark. This is a battered remnants of a small Queensland town destroyed in a matter of minutes by a wall of water. The torrent that came through here swept all before it. Kel Woods and his wife clambered onto the roof of their house to try to escape the fast-flowing water.
Stood on the roof of that building behind me and watched the cars float down the road, watched the houses float down the road, watched the massive amounts of debris.
And my house is now right up the back corner there, and you can see my kitchen and the laundry.
Leroy Shepherd points to where his house once stood.
You'd actually feel the whole house just pop up off its stumps, turn around and go for a 100-and-something metre cruise down my backyard.
He and his family stayed in their home as it broke up and floated away. They spent 5 hours on the roof waiting for the water to drop.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling the floorboards underneath your feet just ripple. Just the whole house ripple and crack, and just watch a room just disappear in front of your face.
Most survivors were evacuated from Grantham today to a nearby town where they're being offered accommodation and support. The most chilling aspect of this disaster is how many people may have been caught in their homes when the water came. Townspeople fleeing for their lives tell of hearing cries of anguish from several houses as a torrent consumed the town.
We were worried about this house beside the hotel where we were at the height of it, and we just watched it implode, and just an explosion of insulation and everything. Just the velocity of the water was incredible, just took it so quickly. And we think there was 2 people in there, maybe 3, but nobody knows, no one's sure.
People are still missing here. Only when the water finally drops will the full tragedy be revealed. Paul Lockyer, ABC News, Grantham, Queensland.
And reporter Paul Lockyer has just filed this update from Grantham.
Finally, the rain has begun to ease in Grantham and the water has actually started to drop, but what that has revealed is even more graphic damage than that which we captured this morning in the first light of day. If you look behind me here, this is a nursery that has been totally crushed by the torrent. In the middle of the nursery down there is a water tank that's come from about 400 metres away. And there is, sitting in the middle of it all, is a house that's come from just over here, about 200 metres away. The damage here is just colossal. And for the town itself, well, most of the people now have been evacuated. There's nowhere to live here for the moment, and there's no support mechanisms in place for them. And as for the recovery process, well, we know there have been some bodies recovered from flooded homes in Grantham, and we know that there may be others in there to be recovered when the waters begin to drop. And we know also that there are cars trapped under the railway bridge at Grantham, and there are fears that there may have been people in there. There's a huge recovery effort and clean-up to be done in this small Queensland town.
Paul Lockyer there reporting from Grantham. Now, earlier today, the Prime Minister warned the nation to brace for a higher death toll. She joins us now from Parliament House. Julia Gillard, can you believe the magnitude of this?
It's certainly huge and unpredictable. I've been absolutely shocked by the images I've seen on the TV screens, and I'm sure Australians are joining me in that shock when you're seeing cars tossed around as if they're just matchsticks and houses that have just been swept away. This is a truly dire set of circumstances for the people of Queensland, with more flooding to come. Our condolences go to those who have lost their lives, those who are grieving, and also to those who are waiting anxiously for news of loved ones.
Now, the challenge facing Brisbane over the next few days is huge. What role could the Army play?
Well, certainly I have said to Premier Bligh that any assistance she needs from the Australian Defence Force will be provided. We already have the Australian Defence Force involved in assisting Queensland through the floods. They've been flying around food supplies, they've been engaged in medical evacuations, and today they've been assisting with the search and rescue effort. But we will provide anything that Queensland needs from the Defence Force.
We've already heard estimates that this will cost several billions of dollars. What have you heard about how much this could cost the nation?
Well, we have already responded to make really urgent payments available to people whose homes are inundated and who need some cash in their pocket. We processed more than 10,000 claims, more than $13 million. That is just going to be the start. Then we will need to assist people as they go back to their damaged homes, businesses and farms. And then we will see what the price of the infrastructure bill is when floodwaters recede and we can see the damage underneath. But we will be working with Queensland every step of the way, shoulder to shoulder, to help Queensland recover from these devastating, devastating floods.
Julia Gillard in Canberra, thank you.
Thank you.
Queensland's Premier has just briefed the media after talking to emergency officials. Here's what she had to say.
We still have 59 people who are unaccounted for. That means there are the families and loved ones of 59 Australians who tonight do not know where those people are or the circumstances in which they find themselves. We know that we have very grave fears for at least 15, but with so many others outstanding and unaccounted for, we still face some very grim news as we continue the search and rescue activities. One of the things about the rain starting to clear even overnight is that we do expect to see much more activity in the search and rescue teams across the Lockyer Valley, and as they are able to get into some of these creeks and tributaries and some of the terrain becomes a little more accessible, we do expect to have a better idea of just how many of those people remain unaccounted for.
Premier Anna Bligh there. Brisbane's Lord Mayor is warning residents in the capital that the flood here will be worse than the 1974 flood which inundated thousands of homes and businesses. Residents and businesses in low-lying areas have been told to prepare for the worst when the city's flooded river peaks on Thursday, and already many low-lying suburbs are flooded. The council says 9,000 properties will be affected. Residents have been told to consider evacuating their homes or at least packing up their belongings and moving them to higher ground.
It rained all day in Brisbane and the river's still rising. Scenes reminiscent of the 1974 flood which inundated thousands of homes and businesses.
The flood reached a peak of 5.45 metres in 1975. Our current modelling shows that with continued rain into Thursday, we will see the levels of the river reach higher than that.
The Premier says Brisbane is facing its greatest threat and its toughest test in more than 35 years.
Today is very significant. Tomorrow is bad, and Thursday is going to be devastating.
The Mayor says water from the devastated Lockyer Valley combined with releases from Wivenhoe Dam, more predicted rain and a very high tide spells disaster for the city. Almost 15,000 people will be directly affected.
That's 6,500 properties, businesses and homes that should see significant flooding. So, sort of half a metre or more of water, we believe.
Evacuation centres are being set up across the city to house an expected 3,500 people. West End resident Pam Morris has seen it all before.
This is our grandfather clock, which is over 100 years old.
In 1974, she lost almost everything.
It was one layer of bricks away from upstairs then.
Like many in her street, Mrs Morris spent the day packing up her precious possessions and moving them to higher ground.
The lady we rented off, she's had it in the family for a while, and she said in the 74 flood the water reached the windowsill.
Andre Hickey fears the worst.
If it is quite estimated to be the equivalent of 2 of Sydney Harbour, and I've lived in Sydney, there's a massive water coming our way.
As the waters rose, this car was swamped late this afternoon. Low-lying businesses weren't taking any chances either, sandbagging their properties.
It's come in the building here before, it's a sump pump in here to pump the water out, but we're worried that we won't be able to control it because there'll be too big a volume of water.
Late this afternoon, the waters continued to rise, swamping this cafe, which wasn't living up to its namesake.
Have you seen anything like this before, mate?
Never. Nothing ever like it before.
An ominous sign of things to come.
And reporter James Kelly is at the State Emergency Headquarters in Brisbane. James, what's the very latest on the situation facing Brisbane over the next 2 days?
Good evening, Joe. Well, the Premier, as you've just heard, says that 59 people are still missing in the Lockyer Valley, and there's grave fears for 15 of those. In Brisbane alone, the package there said there were 6,500 homes. It's now been upgraded to 9,000 homes and businesses, which more than likely will have about a metre of water through them come Thursday. I'm here at the emergency centre and it's very busy at the moment. But 30,000 properties will be affected in some way or another. That's water on the lawns or water up under the houses. Now, an evacuation centre has been set up at the RNA Showgrounds in Brisbane. One family, I believe, is there already, and they're expecting many more families to roll up tonight. But the message is from the people here, if you have relatives and friends you can stay with, please go there first, otherwise go to the evacuation centre.
OK, James Kelly at the SES headquarters in Brisbane, thank you.